Whoa, distressed leather conditioning today. So we got an Ariat distressed leather, a Farini print distressed leather, and a full grain, all right, I guess it's a nubuck. It's a nubuck leather, which is also considered distressed. So let's start out with probably the most popular one. I get questions about this a lot, is how do I condition my Ariat distressed leather cowboy boots? If you want them to keep the same sort of vibe, you might want a distressed leather conditioner like this one here from Scout Distressed Leather Conditioner, and also a sort of stiff plastic bristle brush, which you'll find out how we use that a little bit later on. The thing is with a lot of distressed leathers, so I'm just gonna brush off the dirt here. It's not that big of a deal because it's kind of distressed, so it doesn't matter if it gets a little bit more distressed from the dirt. So it's not that big of a deal with a distressed leather boot, especially an Ariat, because a lot of times when companies say that they are using distressed leather, it's because it's subpar quality leather. So a lot of times on the stomach of cows or on other areas of the hide, there'll be scars, flea bite scars, and other sorts of things that make the leather, it just doesn't look as good. It doesn't give the leather as clean of a finish for a nicer looking boot, right? So a lot of times what brands or tanneries will do is that they will distress the leather. They'll like sand it down or give it some sort of distressing so that those scars, those flea bite marks, and other sorts of nicks are kind of covered up and evened out because they just distress the leather. So most of the time, especially in Ariat's case or cheaper boots, it's distressed because it's not as good of a quality of leather. It's just not, which is part of the reason why they are able to sell it for a little bit cheaper. But I can understand why people would want to kind of keep this look, right? A lot of times, I don't care very much. Oh, I must have worn my Ariat ropers the other day. So I put mink oil on my Ariat ropers, which were also a distressed leather like this, and it turned them really dark, right? And I was fine with that, right? They're just shit kickers. So I'm cool with it, but I can understand how somebody might want their lighter color leather, kind of that same vibe as when they got it. So distressed leather conditioner is how you do it. So we're gonna put some conditioner on here, and it's really not that big of a deal. Some people are like pretty particular about how they condition boots, or how they like brush it down. Or they're boots at the end of the day. They will be fine if you're conditioning them. That's really all that matters, right? So we're just gonna put it on there and rub it in, right? That's all that we really need to do for this distress. You could brush them down. You could use some saddle soap if they were really nasty, but a lot of times you don't need to. Just put some conditioner on there. You do the tops a little bit too if you want. Put some conditioner on there, and then we're gonna let her dry because it makes a big difference, especially with distressed leathers, for the conditioner to dry, because once it is dry, then we'll be able to really sort of distress the leather again with this brush, which is why I was sort of hinting to that ahead of time. So right now it does look a little bit darker, right? I guess I missed this part. Let me just get it in there just for the sake of having it done. And then we're just gonna let this dry. So we'll come back to it in a second when it is dry, and then we're all going to try to condition this fish skin print boot, which is also a distressed leather. And I've never done it before, but I did get a question about it on the video for this. So we're gonna do that next while this Ariat distressed leather boot dries. So we're gonna let that sit down here and just sort of dry for a second. and then we're going to pull up this fish skin print boot. All right, so if you are curious about like what distressed leather even is, usually it looks distressed. If it looks distressed, it probably is distressed. It's not smooth, right? We can tell the difference between something like this and the texture that it has and something like this. Like this is obviously a smooth leather over here on this JW Boot Company boot, and this obviously looks distressed, right? This is a print. Not all prints are distressed, but this one appears to be a distressed leather that they also printed. And, I'm not really sure how the distressed leather conditioner will react to a leather like this, which is fine. You might come across this situation too. So there's a couple of things that we could do. We could test it out on this piece up here, this little pull tab piece, or we can test it out in another inconspicuous area, like maybe on the top of the counter. I think I would prefer to test this conditioner out on the top of the counter up here, just because if anything goes wrong and it darkens it forever, it's still going to be underneath the jeans. But also, we're going to be able to compare it to its surroundings. If we were only to test it up here on the pull tab during this little overlay piece that they put up there, then we wouldn't be able to see how much darker it actually is from the surroundings. So I like to test it out in a conspicuous area where you can also see and compare it directly to its neighbor, right? Up here, it's too far away. So let's test it out on the back of the counter here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit on my finger. It won't kill you. It's not going to kill you. So we're just going to put a little bit up here. And then we're going to let it dry and see what happens. And this is how you test conditioners, right? If you're not sure how a conditioner will react, just try it out in an inconspicuous area. And this is kind of a lot. Like, you don't need to do this much. It's just kind of hard to do while I'm not looking at it. I'm just looking at you, and then this is also towards you. So you'll have to give me a little bit of grace for that. But for the most part, this is how you test out conditioners. You put it on in an inconspicuous area, and then you just let it dry and see what happens. As you can see, it is very much darker, but that's what happens with these distressed leather conditioners. They kind of soak it all up, and they look really wet until they dry out. So we're gonna let this dry and see what happens. This is how you test a leather conditioner if you're unsure about how it will affect your boot. That way you don't have a completely darker boot than you did before, which happens sometimes if you just sort of put on a conditioner and you're not sure what's going to happen. Which sort of happens to some people with this Hondo nubuck. So nubuck is distressed leather, so they're distressing the top of the grain. So you can see, because bull hide has quite a unique grain. It's like a pebbly, sort of deep, veiny look to it, right? See all those veins, and then when producers make that a nubuck, so they're sort of distressing just the top level, so it looks even more grainy. It just makes the grain pop even more. It's purely for aesthetics, right? It doesn't do anything. It just makes the boot look cool and different from a different boot, right? But if you were to use a Bic 4 or some other leather conditioner that's not a distressed conditioner, it's going to completely ruin that vibe. And these Tony Lamas over here were like that, and you can see kind of the texture difference. So this is almost like a smooth leather now, because its previous owner used a conditioner that wasn't a distressed conditioner. And this over here has got that a little bit of pop. So it was very similar effects put on both these boots, but this Tony Lama now looks smooth, even though it does still have that sort of deep, pebbly look to it. So let's apply the conditioner to these Hondo 3416s, and then we're going to, again, let them dry, because it does make kind of a big difference for that leather conditioner to dry so that we can take the brush to it. And like I said, you can also hit the tops. Smooth leather will be fine with distressed leather conditioner. It'll be fine. It's not. It's still conditioned in the leather. It's just also going to let you bring that distressing back fairly easily, and so you can hit it with the smooth leather on the top too. If you were super concerned about it, you can condition the top smooth leather differently from the distressed foot leather, but there's really no need to. There's really no need to. Not in my opinion. All right, so we got that distressed leather conditioner all worked in. As you can see, it's quite a bit darker right now, but they're going to dry and lighten up real quick. Let's check in with our fish skin boots over here. Still drying a little bit, a little dark still, and we're going to let that dry a little bit more. Let's check in with our distressed Ariats here, and as you can see, they're still pretty dark. And part of them, you know, staying a little dark is that they are also going to be more moisturized. So if your boots are really, really dried out, like this, right, then they will darken a little bit when you condition them, just because it's more moisturized. Think about, like, if you got ashy skin or something and you sort of put lotion on there, you know, your skin color is not changing. It's just looking a little bit more vibrant, right? And that's what we're looking for. So I'm not sure if this is completely dry yet. So it could just be really well moisturized and dry, but there's one way to find out. The next thing is that we're going to distress it ourselves. And to do that, we need our plastic bristle brush here. And it's nice that if it's a little bit thicker, of a little bit more stiffer bristle, I guess, is how we can say that. Some people will use I don't know, like a hairbrush or a wire brush. My godfather used to use wire brushes. Not completely necessary. Soft but stiff plastic bristle brush will serve you just fine as well. So what we're going to do here is take our brush and then just distress it ourselves and start brushing it like this, right? And you can see how it's kind of getting distressed again, right? So that's how we bring the distressing right back out, is that we distress it ourselves, right? This is the trick. So you can condition your distressed leather boots, but if you don't do this, then you're just going to have to wait until the grasses, the twigs, the field, the whatever, wherever you're walking around in, it does it for you eventually. So, I mean, that'll work too, if you don't mind waiting. But if you want it to get that distressed look right away, use this brush and distress it yourself. Sometimes on the heel counter, because the jeans sort of rub against this area quite a bit, it'll kind of just like wear it down and kind of smooth it out, just because it is getting a lot of wear back there. But you can see, just look at this. I hope it's coming through okay. You can see how it's just lightening up and looking like that distressed boot again. That distressed leather, like it was when you first got them. But see, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this was dark before I did it. You can see it on this one here, because jeans will rub up and down on it. So you can see how this is the one that I haven't done yet. If you look at the back, it's dark, right? Because jeans are sliding up and down or whatever else. So we're distressing our distressed leather after conditioning it. This is how you do it. And I like the results of it, right? You don't have to do this, but if you like a distressed look, this is how you do it in general. And we are getting a little bit more, look at that, we are getting a little bit more on this heel counter than I thought we were going to. Not bad. Not bad getting some redistressing of this distressed leather. But like I said at the beginning, these these distressed leather Ariats, the leather is distressed because it is a lower quality leather to begin with. So at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. All it really matters is, do you like the look or not? It doesn't matter to the conditioning of the leather. You could use any conditioner on these boots and they would be fine. In fact, it might not even matter at the end of the day. So as you can see, look at this. We got a nice sort of distressed look, and they have gotten much, much lighter as we do this. Not bad, not bad. Are we any closer? Are we any closer? We are a little bit closer. So it was way darker when we started. Just remember that these boots are really dry. I've never conditioned these ever since I got them about a year or a year and a half ago. So I don't really care about Ariats, which is kind of the point. That's how you sort of bring back the distressing of a distressed leather, right? And you could let it dry even more and then do it again. Like you could just keep doing this, but that's generally how you do it. The toe is another one of those spots is kind of going to get that patina as you wear the boot, and it might not distress as well, or be able to be distressed as much, but we are getting a good amount of distressing here the more and more that we sort of rub our brush on there, especially when we go in circular motions, which sometimes you just got to do, right? So we're getting it done. We're getting it done, making it more distressed and distressed. When we revisit our Farini here, it's still a little dark, right? Still a little dark. So let's see what happens when we brush it and see if we get any of that sort of color back that makes it a little bit more similar to its surroundings. And it is really distressed with that, with all of the cuts that they put in here to make it look like a fish skin. So this brush is kind of aggravating those cuts a little bit more than I thought it was going to. Definitely happy that it is just a plastic bristle brush and not a wire brush, because that would rip this right up. Again, not that it matters on a cheap boot like this. You could condition them, but I honestly believe that something else would break on it before the leather even had a chance to crack. Like the heel counter on a boot like this, super thin plastic. Once this goes, the whole boot is done, and it already feels like it's gonna go any moment. So on a lot of these cheap boots, oftentimes they're not even worth conditioning. But because of the questions and the fact that sometimes you do want your boots to last as long as possible, I'm all about making this content. Let's just say screw it and do this whole boot, see what happens. And then I'll check in with you guys later once it has time to dry, because this boot, I have a feeling, is gonna soak up this conditioner like nuts. So we're gonna test this here today, so that you don't have to do it at home. So I'm just gonna drench this boot. I like how it turned out on the counter when we tested it. So let's just apply the conditioner to this whole thing and see what happens. So it darkened right up. So I think this is definitely the right conditioner to use on this. You can see that it's wet still, and that's why it is so much darker. So don't go crazy. Don't get nervous. You're like, oh no, my boot is so much darker. It'll dry. It'll dry. It might not look a lot like this when it does dry, because it is just going to be more moisturized. Remember that when your boots get dry, they get lighter. So if it does change color a little bit, it's just because your boots needed conditioning. All right, here we go. Here is the Hondo 3416 that we just conditioned, and here is the one that I did before. I've conditioned these fairly recently, so it's not like I really needed to, and you can kind of see that it's pretty similar. It's not as drastic of a difference as it was with the Ariats, but it should be dry enough now for us to do that distressing. And nubuck is different than a lot of these other ones because they don't sand it down as much. They just sort of use it as a technique to sort of bring out the grain in the leather. So let's brush these down. There we go. All right, so you can see how we're getting that lighter nubuck sort of vibe back. So you will probably have to let a boot like this dry for much longer before you brush it than others. Let's check out this Farini and see. We can see that it's still a little dark from the distressed leather conditioner. So let's brush it and see if we can get any of that distressing back. Again, we might need to let this dry a little bit more, but for the purposes of this video and just getting it going and keeping it going, let's just kind of see what happens here. Yeah, we're gonna need to let it sit some more. We're gonna let it sit some more, I think. Yeah, I don't think we're getting, maybe we are getting a little bit. You guys see a little difference there when I do this? Yeah, you can see a little difference. You can see a little difference. Yeah. So it's coming back. You can see that color sort of come back, but I think I would like to let it dry a little bit. Oh yeah, look at that. When I look at it this way, when I got your view, it's looking way better. I'm in the shadows over here. I'm on this side, on the dark side of the light, the dark side of the moon over here. Yeah, that works. So this is pretty much distressed leather. That's how they did it. Cool. Not only must you condition, you must also distress. And that's how your boots end up looking the best. Thank you so much for watching today. Why don't you check out this video up here about conditioning roughouts and suedes, which are different than distressed. Music video down here. Don't forget to subscribe up here, and I will see you next time. Peace. Have a good one.